Tonight's reenactments and commentary may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Death threats, underage drinking, and a climate of fear, the accuser's sister tells all. Hello and welcome to the Michael Jackson trial and E! News presentation. I'm James Curtis. With no cameras in that courtroom, we're bringing you the reenactments of the key moments in the trial. Day 4. District Attorney Tom Sneddon calls the accuser's 18-year-old sister to the witness stand. She testified that the singer's associates hid her family at a Miami resort and that Jackson spent hours alone with her brother in Jackson's private suite and behind closed doors. Here's what the jury heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
Could you tell us whether or not at some point in time on that particular day, when you were in that particular room with those particular people, that the defendant went anywhere with your brother?
Yes.
Okay. Would you tell us where?
He pulled him aside into his room.
I couldn't hear you.
He pulled him aside into his room.
Can you tell us whether or not the door was open or closed after they went into his room?
It was shut.
To your knowledge, did anybody else go in the room with them at the time that they went in the room and closed the door?
Not that I remember.
Do you recall how long they were in there?
For 15, 30 minutes. For a while. I don't know approximately time-wise.
Were there any other times while you were in the room that day that the defendant in this case, Mr. Jackson, and your brother Gavin went into that room again?
A couple of times.
So how many times in total do you think it was that your brother Gavin and Mr. Jackson went back into his bedroom?
About 2 or 3 times.
And on those occasions, can you tell us whether or not, like the first time, the door was closed or open?
It was closed.
And like on the first occasion, to your knowledge, did anybody else go in there with them?
Not that I remember.
Now, how long did you stay in Mr. Jackson's suite?
All day.
In the suite all day long, the doors shut 2 to 3 times, some rather vague testimony, but we'll slice and dice it when we come back. When we continue with this testimony, this witness goes on to tell jurors that when her brother came out of Jackson's bedroom, he was behaving oddly.
Now, at some time during the time that you're in Mr. Jackson's complex and the rooms that he has there, did you see your brother Gavin act in what you considered, in your opinion, to be a peculiar?
Objection. Leading. Vague.
It's leading.
Could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury whether or not you observed anything unusual about your brother's behavior that night?
He was just very hyper.
Describe what you mean by that.
Very talkative, running around, very, very playful.
Why did you consider that noteworthy?
I don't know. It was just more than usual. Like more talkative, more jumpy and stuff.
Now, on that particular evening, let me strike that. During the time that you were in Mr. Jackson's suite, did Mr. Jackson, can you tell us whether or not Mr. Jackson ever said anything with regard to any of the programs that were going to be seen on the television that night?
Yes.
All right. What did he say?
For us not to watch it.
Watch it. What's it?
The Bashir documentary.
How do you know he was talking about the Bashir documentary?
Because he said the Bashir tape. Well, yeah.
Do you recall what his attitude was towards that at the time that he said it, or his demeanor?
Kind of like upset about it. Didn't want to see it.
All right, let's jump right in. Sean Chapman, Holly, Ricky Kleeman, Howard Weitzman. Sean, let me start with you. What do you make of this witness?
Well, as we know, this witness is possibly biased. She is the...
You say that so gently, Sean, and I know you don't mean it. Possibly biased? Come on.
Well, I mean, the fact is, she may be telling the truth, but of course, she is, I would say, under the influence of this mother. If the boy, Gavin, is under the influence of the mother, surely the daughter can be as well. The time this happened, she was 15 or 16 years old.
All right.
So she's going to toe the party line. She's going to say what her mom
Chapman,
wants
Holly,
to
you
say.
were surprising me this morning. Howard, I think she had some calming tea, because I think that this witness, there's a good argument from the defense, and we're probably going to hear it, that she's completely, totally biased, and you can't believe a word out of her mouth.
Well, I think that's the tack. More interesting to me, it seems clearly rehearsed, and I don't know what she said in the part that we heard that really is bad.
Okay.
What has she said? Why would Michael Jackson want anybody to see a dice, splice, edited a program like Bashir put together about him, which was clearly biased.
Ricky?
I think she's totally truthful, and I think Tom Mesereau is going to have a lot of problems with her. She appears sweet. She appears forthright. She says what she knows and she doesn't know. They're down at Turnberry, down in Florida. They've been spirited off there, according to her testimony. Michael Jackson doesn't want them to see the documentary. Of course he doesn't. He doesn't want anyone to see it.
But Sean, the testimony is so vague. Go ahead, Ricky, finish
Well,
up.
no, I just want to say, so all she says is he takes a boy, Gavin, in the bedroom a couple of times. There's no allegation of molestation here. The allegation is that probably he was feeding him some wine. So he's whining him. He's not molesting him.
And you know what? And you're absolutely right. It's vague. This is either as sinister and nefarious as you make it, or it's innocent. There's really nothing here. This can be perfectly innocent.
Well, it's particularly, and I think that's true, but it's particularly not innocent. And when we look at the dates of the alleged molestation, remember, this Bashir video happens on February 9th. The alleged dates of the molestation don't begin in the new indictment, and we need to note that it was changed from the complaint, the original charging document. The dates moved up to February 20th, almost, what, a week and a half later.
So he's giving him wine. He's not touching him.
This witness is what cross-examination is all about. This is a witness whose credibility you have to test. I'd love to cross-examine this witness.
What would you ask her?
Maybe she's telling the truth and maybe she's not. Well, I think you take her through it step by step. You'll be able to see if she's solid in her recollection, if she's been rehearsed, but it's a perfect example of the need to test credibility. Right now, it's all innuendo and inference, and I'm sure Mr. Snedden's tone makes it appear evil.
Well, we're going to see what the appearance is to these jurors. Will she hold up on cross-examination? Unfortunately, that's a ways off. Was it just Coke, Diet Coke, or something stronger? Prosecutors say that on the flight back from Miami, Jackson provided the accuser with alcohol and more.
Now, during this flight, did you at any time see Gavin drinking anything?
He had a Diet Coke can.
Do you know where he got it from?
Mr. Jackson passed it to him.
Did you see him actually drink from the can?
Yes.
Do you remember on how many occasions?
They were sipping it back and forth.
Now, when they were sipping this, what kind of a can was it?
A Diet Coke can.
When they were sipping this Diet Coke can, passing it back and forth, was there anything else going on between your brother Gavin and the defendant in this case, Mr. Jackson?
Objection. Vague.
Overruled.
They were whispering.
I'm sorry?
They were whispering back and forth.
At any time during the time that they were whispering back and forth, did you see Mr. Jackson do anything?
He would pass the Diet Coke can. They would whisper, and then at one point Mr. Jackson took off his watch and gave it to Gavin.
Did you see Mr. Jackson do that?
Yes.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when he took the watch off and gave it to Gavin, whether he said anything to him at that time?
He was whispering in his ear, and then Gavin put it on.
A watch, apparently, Sean Chapman Holly, valued at several $1,000s, around $70, the last report that I read.
Well, but does a child of this age, of Gavin's age, really care about that? I mean, again, what they're trying to do...
Sparkly and shiny, he might.
Well, yeah, but just because it's sparkly and shiny, not because it's $75,000. Right. You know what I mean? So, again, this is exactly what Howard was saying. It's all about the inference, because this could be perfectly innocent. They could just be sharing a can of Diet Coke.
And what does that add, indeed, if you look at it critically from the defense perspective, Howard Weitzman? The fact that it's a Coke, but she can't tell what's in it, she doesn't smell anything, is that fodder for cross?
Yes, it is. You know what's coming. You know he's laying the foundation. You know what testimony is coming next. But right now, again, this is innocent behavior.
Well, it's got to come in, though, Ricky, because, as Howard said, it's foundational. It's a preliminary building block for the really big stuff.
Well, you're going to find out, obviously, whether it's by the flight attendants on this particular flight that there was wine poured into Michael Jackson's Diet Coke or Coca-Cola can. We're going to find out later on by other witnesses that from time to time that's how he drank his alcohol. Now, if that's the only crime he's charged here with, he's going to be found guilty of that crime. But he isn't charged with that crime. And the alcohol charge has to do with the molestation, and this is separate.
And speaking of the charges that he's guilty of and committed and charged with, we're going to talk about those dates and what exactly they mean when you look at them in some detail ahead. Claims of intimidation, threats, and a mystery room. Stay with us.
Tonight's reenactments and commentary may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. On the stand, the accuser's sister claims that the Jackson associates played a little hardball, trying to keep the family silent. Here's what the jurors heard, according to the courtroom transcripts.
Now, can you describe your mother's demeanor and attitude during the time that she was at the ranch, between the time you got there and the time you left with Jesus?
She seemed kind of worried and just didn't really understand the whole situation, what was really going on, and she was kind of scared.
Now, when you left with Jesus, do you remember what time of the night or day it was that you left?
It was night.
How do you know that?
Because it was really dark out.
And do you remember the circumstances under which you left?
Yeah. We were scared, and we just...
Objection, hearsay, foundation. It calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
We were kind of scared, and we just really didn't... The way the conversations with Dieter went, they were real aggressive, and just... We were scared. So, of course, Gavin didn't want to leave, but my mom and me... Mainly my mom, wanted to get us out of there.
Now she gets to testify, Ricky Kleeman, to what other people were thinking. Howard, I know it's hard for you to sit still. Go ahead, Ricky.
Well, it's in furtherance of the conspiracy, according to Mr. Sneddon and the government, and obviously according to the court, that what's happening here, according to the indictment and the evidence, is that all this group around Mr. Jackson were there to keep these people contained, that they wanted to make sure they were not saying things to other people. According to the sister's testimony, Mom and the sister were scared.
And that certainly is the upshot of the testimony. And let's not forget, the conspiracy charges have to do with child abduction, false imprisonment, and extortion, while the heart of this accusation is child molestation. Well, the accuser's sister says she was confused and frightened, and the Jackson camp pressured the family to leave the country.
Now, I don't want you to speak for anybody else, okay? I want you to speak for yourself. Why was it that you felt that you were scared?
Just the whole situation, the whole secrecy, just real aggressive. I was just scared. I didn't understand what was going on and why it was like this. I was just scared.
What was the atmosphere like for you personally at the ranch before the filming?
It was just a lot of secrecy. I was mainly by myself, or other times I would go in my mom's room. Just, I don't know, it was weird.
Did you have any interaction with Dieter, with the person you've identified as Dieter?
Not by myself, no.
Not by yourself, with you and others?
Yeah, with my brothers. Like, he would pull us aside and talk to us, and he would say, I need to talk to you guys.
And what would he talk to you about?
Other than the rebuttal film, it was that he told us there were death threats on us, and that's why we needed to leave.
As one of the indications, Howard Weitzman, of rehearsing a witness too much. Everybody talks to the witnesses before they get on the stand. That's a good attorney. Is one of the indications that she says, how many times? 5, 10, 20? I was just scared.
Here's what she hasn't said. What is she scared of? And why wouldn't Michael Jackson be upset after that videotape where the filming is shown in Europe first, I believe, without the pixelation, so the boy and the family is shown. Michael has security issues. He's had them for many, many years. I still don't understand the purpose of this. I understand what
the purpose of what specifically?
Of this testimony. I understand what the indictment says. The purpose, in my opinion, is to get the word scared out in front of the jury.
But doesn't it connect? Come on, Howard.
No.
Doesn't it connect
what,
the conduct of Michael Jackson's associates, not Michael Jackson himself, but his associates, to support, as Ricky Kleeman has said repeatedly, and now I finally get it, this whole abduction charge that's alleged in the conspiracy case?
Or for protection, or for whatever purposes. So far, we don't know.
All right,
right. And also, the other word that she says that I don't think is the word that an 18-year-old necessarily uses is secrecy. We keep hearing this word secrecy. That, again, shows that she's been rehearsed. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it now. This is where the bias really comes in. She just seems that she's under the influence
you think
of
she's
her
lying
mother,
completely?
of Mr. Sneddon. Well, I mean, obviously, they're telling her what it's all about. So it's got to be secret, they've got to be scared, but she can't, again, explain why she's scared.
But that's up to Tom Mesereau to uncover. That's up to him to uncover. He either can or he can't. Right now, she appears to just be a very nice young girl who tells a story. Maybe they were going to spirit her off to Brazil. Maybe it's because there were death threats against the family.
And
maybe
whether or not this young lady has a motivation to lie is going to be hovering around in that courtroom like the big pink elephant that it is. After the Bashir disaster, the prosecution claims that the accuser's family was instructed to make a rebuttal video, all designed to repair Jackson's image. And this time, the star's handlers weren't taking any chances.
What did he say about, what did he say to you about the rebuttal?
Objection. Hearsay.
Offered for the same purpose, Your Honor.
All right, I'll accept it conditionally.
Go ahead.
It was just, we were supposed to say nice things about him, and he offered us to give us a paper.
A paper? What do you mean by a paper?
It was kind of like a script, just of things to say.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what was on it?
Just nice things of Mr. Jackson, and that's it.
A truthful, caring sister or a young lady with a motive to lie? Well, according to the accuser's sister, fruit punch wasn't the only beverage served at Neverland.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about your time at the ranch, okay? During the time that you were staying at Neverland Ranch, did you ever see your brothers drink?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
Once.
Could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, where was that when you saw it?
It was in the arcade. It was, if you move a jukebox out of the way, it leads into a staircase. You go down the staircase, you make a right, there's another room, and it has like sleeping bags and stuff. And you go into a little tiny room. That's if you go into the room. Make a right, there's a little tiny room, and then that's the wine cellar.
All right. When you followed them in there, tell us what you saw.
When I walked into the wine cellar, I saw Mr. Jackson pouring wine into cups.
Into what?
Into cups.
And how many cups?
I don't know. They were just cups. I don't remember how many there were.
Did everybody have one?
Yeah.
Did you see anybody drink out of it?
Yeah.
Who drank?
Well, I saw Gavin, Star, and Aldo drinking.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, Mr. Jackson was drinking also.
Did you get offered something to drink?
Yes.
And did you take it?
Yes.
And what was it?
It was wine.
What makes you think it was wine?
I don't know, because it was clear, and I don't know anything about liquor, so I don't know.
How did it taste?
Funny, and I don't know, weird.
Okay, she's 18. She's never tasted wine. No, okay, that's not fair. This was several years back. She was much younger, but she doesn't have anything to compare it to since. Somebody help me out.
Well, I don't know if I can help you out. It just sounds incredible. Less than credible to me.
It makes no sense.
That's right.
It doesn't fit.
Oh.
And if it doesn't fit...
All right, I got to go to the other side.
Save us all.
I'm going to save you all because even Tom Mesereau does not dispute in his opening statement in any way that I heard that there wasn't wine given to the children. Now, his behavior, Michael Jackson's, may have been inappropriate. I mean, totally inappropriate to be sharing wine. But he also has this immaturity. He does these childish things with kids. He acts like he's a kid. Isn't this fun? We're going into the wine cellar. We're going to have a few glasses of wine. Is it a good thing for him to do? No. Does it make him a criminal? No. And
well, does it make him guilty of the sexual assault charges? That's the big key. We'll continue this on the other side. Ahead, the accuser's sister talks of weird changes. Stay with us.
Tonight's reenactments and commentary may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. The accuser's sister says that Michael Jackson had a huge impact on her brother, but not for the best. Here's what the jury heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
All right. Was there anything that changed with regard to that description that you've given the jury about the closeness of the family between you and your brothers?
Yes.
Objection. Vague.
Overruled.
Yes.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what it is?
Me and my brother are very, very close. When during this all, it was just like he didn't want to be near me. He didn't really want to talk to me. He didn't really want to talk to me. He didn't want to be near me. It just felt weird. And me being his older sister, I just knew something. I don't know. Just felt weird.
Anything else about his behavior that changed that you noticed?
He didn't really want to talk to me. He was very distant. He just didn't want to even see my mom. He just thought differently.
Acting differently, thought differently. Howard Weitzman, you taught law school for, what, 12 years? What do you tell your trial advocacy students when you're learning how to deal with witnesses and cases to do about that witness?
Well, this witness is very interesting. She is telling the jurors what somebody else thought. She doesn't describe what she saw. She doesn't describe what she heard. She said, this is what he wanted.
Yes.
And the cross-examination of that witness is to try to get her to explain, if she can, and I don't believe she can, how she arrived at that opinion.
You buy it, Ricky?
I think that what happens in the cross dealing with this last reenactment is that we have to say what was different. She says he got differently. Well, what was different? Yeah. Did he play with her before and stop playing with her? Did he chat with her before and stop chatting with her? He also is an adolescent boy. Adolescents do, quote unquote, get different.
Yeah, they do get different sometimes. Sean Chapman-Holly, you get the last word today.
All I can say
is... Let me take you in a slightly different direction, though, Sean. You brought this up, so this is all your fault. If it doesn't fit, I'm not going to even finish it.
I will. You must acquit.
Does this fit with the defense case?
Absolutely. This witness is biased, and she's got a motive to lie because she wants some of that money.
The money.
In this civil suit, one day it's coming.
Leave it right there for a complete recap of the week's explosive testimony. Be sure to watch our weekend wrap-up show tomorrow, 10 a.m., 4 p.m., right here on E!